Our notes for tonight are on the topic of ratifying the Constitution. And ratifying is just kind of a fancy word that means approve. So up to this point, we've learned about the Articles of Confederation, which was our first national government. We've learned about how it intentionally set up a weak national government and how that led to a lot of problems in our young country. So to fix those problems, our founding fathers got together in Philadelphia to write a new constitution, and we've learned about some of the disagreements that had to be resolved in order to write the Constitution. And so our notes today are going to deal with how we got the Constitution to actually be approved by the 13 states. So just because there were a bunch of guys in Philadelphia who wrote up a new government didn't mean that it automatically went into effect. It had to go to each state to be voted on. And in order to be ratified or approved, 9 of the 13 states had to approve it. So each state, from Massachusetts way up north, all the way down to Georgia in the south, had these conventions where a lot of the leading citizens got together and they would have a vote on whether to accept the new Constitution or to stick with the Articles of Confederation. And you had to have 9 states agree to the Constitution for it to go into effect. So in each of these states, you have debates over the Constitution. And there were 2 main groups that emerged that argued back and forth about the new document. The first group was called the Federalists. And this group of Americans is the group that wanted a stronger national government. They looked at the Articles of Confederation and they thought, man, this is not a good setup. The government, the national government, is too weak and it's leading to all of these problems that we're having, so we need a stronger national government. But we also want the national government to share power with the states. And the Federalists believed that the Constitution would keep the national government's power under wraps. It would keep it limited through the system of checks and balances that was built into the Constitution. The second group, the group that opposed the Federalists, was very cleverly named the Anti-Federalists. And the Anti-Federalists wanted a weaker national government, just like the one we had under the Articles of Confederation. They were afraid of a big, powerful national government. In particular, they were worried that a strong national government would overpower the states and trample on people's rights. Again, like they felt happened under Great Britain. And these 2 groups are having debates, they're writing essays to be published in newspapers, and they're trying to convince people whether they should or should not vote for the Constitution. As these debates are going on, several states were hung up on the fact that the Constitution did not include a Bill of Rights. Anti-Federalists felt that without one, the Constitution did not do enough to protect citizens' rights and freedoms from the national government. And so because of that, they wanted guarantees of these rights to be directly written into the Constitution. It wasn't good enough for them that the Federalists were saying, well, of course we're going to protect those rights. The Anti-Federalists wanted it in writing. And what kind of rights and freedoms are we talking about? Well, it included things like freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, the right to a trial by jury. And these are just a few examples. But the Anti-Federalists wanted these to be directly written into the Constitution. Once the Federalists agreed to add these protections and to add in a Bill of Rights, the remaining states agreed to ratify the Constitution, and the Constitution became our new government. By 1791, 10 amendments had been agreed to and added to the Constitution to specifically protect individual rights and freedoms. And these first 10 amendments collectively are called the Bill of Rights. So, to sum up, each state had to decide whether they wanted to agree to the Constitution or stick with the Articles of Confederation. Federalists who were in favor of the Constitution argued for it. Anti-Federalists who were against a big, strong national government argued against the Constitution. And this argument goes back and forth. The big sticking point was the lack of a Bill of Rights. Once the Federalists agreed to add the Bill of Rights, then all of the states agreed to accept the Constitution, and it became our new government. And shortly afterwards, we passed 10 amendments to protect individual rights and freedoms, and those become called the Bill of Rights.